Did you guys know about the Creature Crate Patreon? Every month you'll get amazing files that you can make, like this Donkey Kong, this dragon, this robot tech scarab, this Cerberus, or this super cool set of Bulbasaurs. You can also sell the prints from these files as an authorized seller. Join the Creature Crate Patreon now. Link is in the description below. Hey guys, what's up? Nico again here. And in this 3D Printed Profits episode, I have with us Craig. And Craig and I are going to talk about his business here in a little bit. And I'm super excited for this episode because Craig got some good, big numbers for you guys. And he's going to teach us exactly how he got there. And we're just going to tell his story, basically. But a few things before we start, make sure you guys join us in the 3D Printing Side Hustle group. The link for that in the description below. And wait till the very, very, very end where I'm going to give you your own product ideas so you guys can start your own 3D printing business. And as always, Craig's links are going to be in the description below. And so that's really it for me. Craig, let's get started. Welcome to the show, man.
Hi, and thank you for having me.
Nah, dude, a pleasure and the honor is all mine. So let's get started here, man. What's your background and how did you get started in 3D printing?
My background is engineering. I went to the Navy right out of high school because I'd had so much fun they would ask me to leave. So I got a little sense of discipline, and I did nuclear power on a submarine. So that was horrible, but it gave me kind of that love for engineering. Actually, which goes back to watching Star Trek as a kid, but that's a whole nother story. So then I went after the military and got an engineering degree, electrical and computer engineering, with a focus on digital computers, embedded digital computers. And so yeah, that's kind of what I was doing, and I got really big into product development, but mostly on the electronics side. Then my super serious hobby, which I've loved more than anything in the world, is paintball. So I am a almost 40-year-old man who plays a kid sport, but I absolutely love it. And
I'm pretty sure any game is a kid's sport, man. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I had this paintball gun, and I really didn't like the trigger on it. So one weekend, I think it was, I took a window, which is now LinkedIn Learning, on 3D design course. Is about, I want to say it's about 20 something hours. So, did it over a long weekend. I taught myself 3D design, and I designed my first paintball gun trigger. And that is, now I got to make it. And so I got a 3D printer and I made it.
That's awesome, dude. So what machine was that? Was your first machine?
Oh, okay. I need everybody to promise not to laugh. It was a DaVinci 1.0.
No one's gonna laugh at that. I think there was another guest on the show that had a DaVinci, and I was like, all right.
It was, so this was about, I want to say 2015.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've been printing for a little bit now.
Yeah. Holy crap. That's like 7 years now.
Yeah. That's not that long ago.
Yeah.
So when you got into that, right? How did you get into the business side of it? You were just like, hey, I have this trigger, right? The trigger pull on it is really, really small, right? I did a little bit of paintball before. And so is that what happened?
Yeah. So the first thing I did is I got it and I loved it, and I put it up on some of the Facebook groups, and everybody's like, "Oh, you should sell those." And I was like, "Great idea." so I just started selling them.
And where did you sell them?
So mostly word of mouth in Facebook groups. I didn't really so this was a side hustle because I was doing engineering full time. So yeah, it's just kind of like
It was just word of mouth, kind of like, hey, PayPal me this or send me this money, and I'll send you, a package. And that's how it all started. And then what happened?
Yeah, that is. That kind of took off. I ended up working with a smaller paintball company, got a hold of me and was like, "Hey, I want to sell your product and I want to work with you." And I actually moved to getting, I didn't own the printer, I had it farmed out, a Mark Forge that had the solid strand embedded carbon fiber. So I had them made with that to make them stronger. So it was carbon fiber reinforced nylon, solid strand carbon fiber embedded into it. And that's, like that took off. I had to leave that company because of a job that I had that, was like, you can't have any side jobs. And then when I came back to paintball, I got picked up by a company that also had a pro team attached to it. And, I made the move from that to from 3D printing to machined aluminum. So that took me out of, from the paintball side, it took me out of 3D printing. But at that point in time, I'd actually started doing, uh, again, sticking in paintball, 3D printed paintball gun stands. First, somebody else's design, then I started designing my own. And I kind of started branching out from that.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you went from trigger prototype to proof of sale. Is that the term, I believe? Proof of
Yeah, I sold
something,
them for
right? And then
about 2 or 3 years of selling 3D printed ones.
and then you went straight into molded manufacturing, into
Yep.
aluminum.
Not molded, but directly into aluminum from the 3D printed.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then these triggers got picked up by companies and now wow, basically.
Yep.
And so how
Yeah.
many products do you have now?
Oh, if you go between everything that I get, so there's the paintball side, which is mostly like machined aluminum. I still do prototyping and 3D printed. To what's in my Etsy store that I run with my partner, to what I do is part of my day job as part of the engineering, probably a couple hundred.
Gotcha. Couple hundred. That's a pretty big number of products.
Yeah,
So are
yeah, it
these all
is.
3D printed or are they are some of them, like ma like professionally manufactured in an actual factory where they, with aluminum and other carbon fiber stuff?
I'm probably doing about 40 products that are directly 3D printed via FDM or resin.
Okay. And then the rest is outsourced into a an actual
Yeah, machine shop, yeah.
machine shop. Holy cow. Dude. So do you then get royalties from the people? Because so my guess is that the distributors will buy them wholesale from the factory, from the machine shop where you have it manufactured, and then they sell it at retail.
Yeah, so the way that I worked is the paintball team that I started working with, that also, like, it's a paintball products company, uh and the team saw my 3D printed parts, really loved them, and was like, I want to give you money to go to the next step, which is machined aluminum. And kind of the agreement we worked out is I contracted for them, did all the manufacturing, like I took care of the manufacturing. I didn't personally do it, installed set screws, bearings, and then they took it, like, as approved as a concept, as like, okay, we can now like sell these. They like the manufacturing got, the supply chain got transferred over to the paintball company, and then I just get a monthly salary, I guess, out of it.
I would call that
So
royalties.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm like closely integrated into the company, so I do tech support with
Gotcha.
so
Okay.
like I'm like an employee, but it's 1090. It's a weird setup, but I love it, and I wouldn't do anything else. And I travel the country going to paintball events.
Dude, there's so much to unwrap here. All right. There's a lot to unwrap here because very few people have piqued my interest like this, and there's so much to unwrap because of the sheer amount of steps that you took to get to where you are now. Normally, people are like, I just stay with 3D printing and prototype, I give them, and that's done. You actually took it to the next level where your invention went from 3D printed to machined to retail.
Yeah, thousands of products a year, thousands of individual parts.
Okay, let's get to the numbers here. How much are you making a month in profit on this?
So I do engineering design services, 3D printing, laser cutting, just like my entire like manufacturing
The whole
setup.
business. Yep, the whole in-home manufacturing. Give me the number.
About 18,000 a month.
18 a month. Hope you guys heard that right. That's a big number.
It is.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a pretty dang good number. So my guess is, so do you still, I should just not guess. Do you have a print farm at home then, or do you just have the necessary stuff for, I see the CNC and I
Nope, that is a 3D
what is
printer.
that? Okay, see,
So
if you're driving, just wait till you get home and watch the video. But so do you just have enough to prototype, or do you actually, are you still in-home manufacturing for yourself?
So yeah, kind of like what we talked about before. It's like I don't really consider 3D printing like 3D printing it like we talked about in-home manufacturing or in-office manufacturing. So right now, over my shoulder for those of the people that are driving, I have two Maker Gear M3 independent dual extrusion, so M3 IDEXs. Off screen is an M2, which I'm upgrading the control system to. They use the Rambos, and I'm taking it over to an Octopus board. And to my left, which you can't see, I have a Sonic Mighty 4K, a Frozen printer, and then a Frozen Mega 8K. And in the middle there is the Cheedy XCF Pro, so I can do carbon fiber filament.
Gotcha. And so I'm guessing you don't use PLA unless it's for like the cheap stuff that, the non production stuff, right?
No, so it depends on the application. So that's another thing I think, in 3D, when you're 3D printing, you really have to consider is where is this going to end up? So for some products, PLA is great. And I would say right now, actually recently in the last month, 100% PLA. And other months I go between PLA, PETG. I don't like using ABS because the fume's kind of not great. And but yeah, this last July was almost all PLA, if not all PLA,
That's
for what was going
awesome,
out the
dude.
door. I did do some nylon testing just to see how it worked out, and it was wonderful.
Gotcha. So what struggles did you have when you first started?
So way back when before I left my full time office job and moved to like working for myself. So when I was doing that, time was obviously a huge one. I was, when you're 3D printing and you're printing somebody else's files, you have a lot of competition there, and it's almost like a race to the bottom in terms of what you can do with profit, right? Like that's a really like not great place to be. And I say that as I have Lord of the Prince Bahamut file, resin printed in front of me, and that I do sell locally. But when you're printing somebody else's file, everybody else can do that too. So you've got to differentiate yourself in quality or price or whatever it is. So the first big hurdle was, how do I move from a revenue stream that has competition to a revenue stream that has no competition? Like I want to be the first to
What's your
market,
blue
the
ocean?
only to market. Yeah. So that's why I taught myself 3D modeling. And before this, I had no 3D modeling experience other than I think I took one class in an undergrad that was like, here is SolidWorks as a passing introduction. Like, here's how you make a sphere. So I sat down over a long weekend, taught myself that, and then I started making triggers. At the time, nobody else was doing it. Nobody was doing it like I was doing it, and I exploded. And now, I choose to, I still do some like pre-made files, almost as print as a service, but I definitely try to use 3D printing as part of my toolbox to do stuff that no one else is doing, that no one else can do, and to iterate fast. One of my on the paintball side, the person I work very closely with is like, you got to be a speedboat, you can't be an aircraft carrier. You've got to pivot fast. You got to make big moves. You got to make them fast. And if you don't keep doing that, somebody's going to catch up to you, and your business model is borked at that point. You got to figure out something else to do. So that's honestly where 3D printing is really, really great. Is I can, like I can turn off the printer. Like, hey, I'm printing the 3D printed paintball gun stand, and all of a sudden, like I noticed there's a bunch of other people doing it. I shut off the printer, go to something else, do a redesign, do something better. And I keep very little inventory. I try to keep some so I can do a quick turn on, orders coming in. But, maybe I have less than 10 pieces in inventory, and I can make that pivot, do something else, and tie my machines up with something that has a much higher margin, because I don't have any competition.
Speaking of margin, what margins are you guys targeting for the print side and the machine side?
So machine side can be anywhere from, I'm trying to think of, so 5x is kind of the minimum. So 5 over bill of material cost is the minimum, to sometimes is 25 times the bill of
Woo!
material cost. So
Nice.
again, it's all about being that when you're in the market, you got to set your own pricing, and you come in aggressive. And people are like, oh my god, that's so high. And it's like, yeah, but I've only got this for like 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year if I'm like absolutely lucky. And I got to pivot again, so that those large margins pay for the engineering service. Like engineering is expensive, anywhere from, when I bill 75 to $125 an hour. So
That was my next question. How
you
much
know
you're
like
charging for your design services? Now, do you do any
so yeah.
custom print services too?
Yeah, so I do custom print services, all word of mouth, mostly friends. And some of my customers from the design side will be like, okay, I need you to print. I had one customer, I did the mounts for putting strobe lights on drones when the FAA came out with like, hey, you got to put strobe lights on these. So the mounts that were 3D printed, I did those on contract. And I'd print, I want to say I printed probably 500 to 1,000 of them over time.
Jeez, that's a
Again, this person was the only person in the business, and was setting their own pricing.
there. Hey, you see why you got to get your own blue ocean, guys? That's why. 18,000 a month. That's a big number. Um, so do you have your own website as well, or is it all via Etsy for the printed stuff?
So mostly, actually, the printed stuff is laser cut, and we're expanding into making a big push into 3D printing there in the next, like, I want to say 3 to 4 months. But the Etsy is Nerdy Swagger.
Nerdy Swagger.
The
We'll be sure to link
Yeah,
that in the show notes.
I do mostly like Star Trek stuff, and kind of, you know what I mean. That big, like, I just try to hit that nerdy stuff, the stuff I wanted as a kid. And something that's there too is, I really hit, like, uh, I found something that was trending popular in other areas. And this is another way in 3D printing. You're like, oh, that's really awesome. For me, what's the nerdy spin on it? What can I do to make this like nobody else is out there? And, like, I did that for about a year, and then I started getting copycats, which is, again, it's a great sign of success. And then for the paintball side, it's infamouspaintball.com. And for my general engineering services, it's Orion Technical Solutions. Sorry, Technical Services. Orion Technical Services.
Gotcha.
I have a DBA. I have a
We'll be
DBA,
sure
so
to
I
link
operate under
all
both.
of that so you guys can find everything. You can get to know Craig as much as you guys want. Um,
I
so
don't
what else is
recommend that.
working
It's
today in terms of marketing, man? Is it still all word of mouth, or the marketing is just kind of taking a life of its own and you've already built a brand and people know it?
So I have a lot of word of mouth with local customers, friends, family. A lot of what I do is, I don't say I 3D print stuff. I do product development. And sometimes that means 3D printed, sometimes that means laser cut, sometimes that means machined, but it's all part of that toolbox. So a lot of when they have friends are like, oh, I have this really great idea, but I don't know how to make it. I don't know how to make it manufacturable. I don't know how to prototype it. I get a lot of that. I use Etsy and Etsy marketing to to take care of that side of the business, and I use Upwork for the engineering side. So, like, hey, I got to find customers. Upwork's a really great place to do that.
Gotcha. Um, and so what's next for you, man? Actually, you know what? Before I ask that, what software are you using for design?
So I use Fusion 360 for design side. Almost, I want to say 99% of design work I do is that, and it allows me to do stuff like it's really awesome. I can design. So I design circuit boards. So I went on my own. I do my own consulting, and I design circuit boards. But I can take the circuit board design in Fusion 360, which has all the 3D models for the resistors, the connectors, and all of that. I can import it into a model, the 3D model, and design an enclosure around that. And the awesome thing again about 3D printing is you can design enclosures that cannot be made in any other way. So I will actually design the circuit board. I'll design the enclosure around it, designing the other mechanical parts that go with it, and design it in there. And then this is like people that are watching the video. I'm in my I call it the lab, so it's kind of my office, kind of my lab, and I have the ability to basically manufacture on a small scale almost anything as long as it's not CNC yet. As I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, I'm pretty sure my partner would be very upset if I had a CNC machine running for a good portion of the day.
Yeah, for sure, man. So that's it for me for all my questions, dude. What's next for the company? What's the future hold? How are we going to grow this thing?
So the big thing is I think I've hit saturation in terms of what I can do hourly. And now I have like what I'm really looking for is I've got like a couple of projects out there. One of them is actually I don't want to give too much detail because it's not quite ready yet, but it's a curing station for resin prints. And I'm hoping to be able to cure those prints in somewhere around 5 to 10 seconds.
Whoa, that's fast.
Yes. And in order to do that, maybe somewhere around 80 to 150 watts of LEDs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, dude, that's a lot of power. Like,
Yes.
wow.
And the idea is because especially when you're in a place like mine, people are like, oh, just get more curing stations. I only have so much, shelving. It's off camera, but like I've got steel racks. I've got 3, 4, 5 in here, and a couple more scattered around the apartment. Just so everybody knows, I've got concrete floors, bare concrete floors, so it's okay that I do resin printing. I used to do it on carpet, not a good idea.
No, terrible idea.
But yeah, but those 2 of those cure boxes take up a printer space. So if I can, do a rinse, drop the prints into a cure box, flash cure them and pull them out, that's my ability to increase my throughput. But that's one of the products I'm looking at offering. I've got so that's more of a passive income approach, which I'm trying to set up the supply chain for that. And then I'm trying to get more stuff that's 3D printed that I can, like belt printers are awesome for doing small parts like rapidly, but I'm looking for more very, very unique things that are maybe larger that I can keep printers occupied, because a printer that's not printing is not making me any money.
Attaboy.
So that's kind of my thing is like where are my revenue sources, where are my revenue streams, and what are they not doing right now because they need to be doing something. So yeah, that's like as far as like business advice, because I know that kind of came up in the pre-show, but as far as business advice, my kind of like if you're doing this and this is serious for you, it's not just like a side hobby hustle, but like, hey, this is a side hustle. It's look at everything you have. It's a tool in your toolbox. So don't think that you're going to be 3D printing stuff. You're going to make something awesome that happens to be 3D printed. And what's not in the market, not what everybody else is doing, what's not in the market, how can you make it? How can you make it better? And whatever revenue streams you have, like, are they active? And if they're not active, why not? And fix it.
There you go. That was your number one tip for your 3D printing business that Craig just gave. I didn't need to ask him because Craig's awesome like that. So I told you guys, if you stay to the very, very end, I will give you your own product idea for your own 3D printing business. And today's product idea are surf tools. Now, I got this idea from one of our previous guests, and there's surf combs, I guess, that you can use for after you wax the board. You can have a wax holder for when you're waxing the board. Dude, there's so many things you guys can make for that. And how would you customize it? How would you make it better? Like Craig said, you would take a product, it's 3D printed, but how would you make it better? How would you take that and make that cooler? How would you just elevate, right, that particular product? So that's your product idea for today. I hope you guys learned something, because I learned a hell of a lot from Craig just now. So again, Craig, thank you for being here, man. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, amazing job. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
no joke money right there, boy.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's all because I picked up a three because I didn't like something that I had. I wanted to make it better, and I used it. I got a 3D printer and I made it better.
There you go. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Make sure you guys join us daily, Monday through Friday, for your episodes, more interviews. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.